3-1 triumph in the Spanish Super Cup. The thing is about the Clásico, as we see the team arriving at the stadium a few minutes ago, is that unlike other big games across the world, it almost always delivers drama, excitement and plenty of quality. With me as we build up to the game is Alex Kirkland. As we say, Al, this is the game that almost always delivers.
It doesn't get any bigger than this. It really doesn't, in terms of atmosphere, in terms of quality of the players out on the pitch. And you mentioned Real Madrid's record here in recent years as we see the team arriving at Camp Nou. And that's so important. The fact that for a number of these Real Madrid players, all they can remember in recent years of coming here to Camp Nou is coming away with 3 points or coming away with a point. You've got Gareth Bale who scored goals here, Marco Asensio scored here, Sergio Ramos has scored here, Karim Benzema has scored here. Real Madrid's recent record here is so good. There isn't that fear factor, I don't think, for Real Madrid coming to Camp Nou. Quite the opposite. I think Barcelona are a little bit nervous about hosting Real Madrid here.
As we see the players, the focused looks on the players as they walk into the stadium, and a lot of the players have spoken about this. The manager too has mentioned it's important to deal with the emotional aspect of a Clásico, of a game of this magnitude as well. You have to be able to manage your emotions both before and during the game as well. There's a lot of tension, a lot of nerves, a huge amount of focus on this game from outside forces, from the media, all over the world, of course, and global audience in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions. All those players know that, but they have to just focus on what their job is out on the pitch. As we see the players making their way into the stadium, some very young members of the squad as well, some very experienced members of the squad as well, and they all know what they have to do emotionally as well, don't they?
It is different, even for these players who play so many big games. The Clásico is different. You hear some of the ex-players talk about this, the way the build-up for the Clásico starts a couple of weeks in advance. You start talking about this game and it grows day by day by day, that anticipation. Even for these elite top-level players who, like I say, have played all over the world, big games for club and country, this is something special.
OK, let's give you the starting 11s for both teams, of course. Julian Lopetegui making 2 changes from the side that won midweek in the Champions League against Victoria Pilsen by 2-1, with Raphael Varane and Thibaut Courtois coming back into the starting 11. So Courtois between the sticks for his first ever Clásico. Big game for Thibaut Courtois. Nacho playing at right back because, of course, Dani Carvajal unavailable. Raphael Varane coming in to partner Sergio Ramos at centre-back with Marcelo at left-back. Marcelo, another veteran of this fixture. Then across the midfield, well, Modric, Casemiro, Kroos and Isco, more or less as we expected, with Isco and or Asensio potentially being in that position, but it is Isco. And then up front, it is Gareth Bale and Karim Benzema. So there weren't too many question marks about the starting 11. We kind of thought we knew how it was going to look, and this is how Real Madrid line up, with Navas, Odriozola, Valverde, Mariano, Asensio, Ceballos and Lucas Vázquez on the bench for Real Madrid this afternoon. Let's take a look at the Barcelona starting 11 as well. No changes from the side that played midweek in the Champions League against Inter Milan at the Camp Nou. So Ter Stegen in goal, Sergio Roberto at right back, Piqué, Lenglet and Jordi Alba, Rakitic, Busquets and Artur in midfield. Rafinha keeping his place alongside Luis Suarez and Coutinho up front for Barcelona. So those are the 2 respective starting 11s for today's Clásico at the Camp Nou. Now, obviously, this is Real Madrid TV. Obviously, we might be a little bit biased, but you look at those 2 starting 11s, and Real Madrid have got a stronger starting 11, surely.
I think that's true. I think it's an extremely strong Real Madrid 11. You look at that side, it's packed full of top quality, of experience as well, right the way through the team. As you say, no surprises in terms of the starting 11. The only potential doubt was whether they'd go with Isco or Marco Asensio. It is Isco who is more of a midfield player than Asensio. I think it's understandable to go for a midfield 4. Now, whether it lines up as a flat 4 across the midfield, as more of a midfield diamond, I think it'll be flexible. I think there'll be a lot of mobility there for the likes of Isco and Luka Modric as well. But no, I think it's hard to argue with. Looking at that Real Madrid starting 11, it's the strongest starting 11 around. As I say, it's packed full of the very best players internationally, just as we saw going back to the World Cup in the summer, right the way through the team. This is a team packed full of world stars. Now, of course, that in itself doesn't mean anything. It's then all about delivering on the day and getting a win, a potentially absolutely huge win in terms of the La Liga title race, even at this very early stage.
Absolutely, as we bring you live images here of the side warming outside on the pitch. Now, we know the team haven't necessarily been in the best kind of form coming into this game. They did get back to winning ways midweek, of course, against Victoria Pilsen in the Champions League. But let's be positive, shall we? As we said, we've got a really strong starting 11, got a really good record in this stadium as well. We're coming here with the away side. The pressure isn't necessarily on Real Madrid. The pressure is on Barcelona to win in their home stadium in front of their home fans. I think we could be in for a good afternoon.
Well, that's what's been so interesting about the Clásico in recent years, is Real Madrid with this brilliant record at Camp Nou, and Barcelona with a decent record as well at the Bernabeu. And I think part of that is what you've just what you've touched on, this element of the pressure being on the home side. They're the ones who are kind of expected to come out and perform and play football and get forward. And as we know with this Real Madrid team in recent years, with the likes of Gareth Bale up front, Marco Asensio as well, when they come up against a team like Barcelona, a team that like to attack, that like to play football, that like to get forward, but therefore leave spaces behind, that's when this Real Madrid side can profit. This Barcelona team, looking at some of the stats from their game against Sevilla, for example, the other week, Sevilla, one of the top teams in the league this season. Barcelona won that game, and yet once again displayed one or two defensive issues. I think Sevilla had 16 shots in that game. Now, Barcelona shouldn't be conceding that number of shots in a game. That's not a good side defensively. And if Real Madrid are able to produce that many chances at a similar sort of level, you'd expect the players that Real Madrid have got in their team here to take those chances.
Absolutely. So we said Real Madrid have a good record in this stadium, unbeaten in their last 4 visits. They've never gone 5 matches consecutively without defeat at the Camp Nou, so a chance to make a little bit of history. You see the stat going across the bottom of your screen. Of course, 3 league games unbeaten at the Camp Nou, and that famous Super Cup victory in the Spanish Super Cup back in August last summer, of course, when we won by 3-1 in this stadium. If you go a little bit further back even, Real Madrid unbeaten in 9 of the last 13 Clásicos at the Camp Nou, so 4 wins and 5 draws is really not a bad record in this stadium at all. And actually, during that time, Real Madrid have outscored Barcelona in those matches in this stadium, 24 goals to 22. So as we said, this team knows how to get a result in this stadium. It is out, and it is up to those 11 players there to go out and do the business today. We heard from the manager, Julen Lopetegui. We'll hear from him in just a second, but he spoke, and also we heard some of the players speaking before this game, that the Clásico is often decided by small details. Actually, hearing Lucas Vázquez speaking before the game, and he was saying, well, listen, you can have all the ideas in the world, how you want to go out and play the game, and tactically and focusing and all that, but it just comes down to very, very fine margins, very small details during the game. So you have to keep your focus 100% and keep your head as well during this most emotional of matches.
Look, there are certain things you can control in the game of football and certain things you can't. And you've really got to focus on the things that you can control and do what you can do and not worry so much about all the rest. I think it's true, fine margins always. The bigger the game, the finer the margins. One of the things you can do is to make sure you take your chances, to be clinical. If you get an opportunity, certainly if it's a proper one-on-one, a proper clear-cut chance, you've got to take it, because that sort of chance might not come along very often in a game like this. If you don't take your chances, life is always going to be difficult for you. So that's the kind of thing that you can control. Taking your chances, looking to dominate the midfield. These games are so often won, I think, in midfield, and that's why Casemiro, Kroos, Modric and Isco will be extra important in a game like today against the side of the quality of Barcelona. And then at the back, concentration. Not allowing that concentration to slip for a second, making sure you're picking up your man, making sure the communication's there with your teammates at the back as well. All these factors.
We are live on Real Madrid TV, live on realmadrid.com. If you're joining us on Facebook, on YouTube as well, you're very welcome. This is the match live, building up to the Clásico, Real Madrid against Barcelona this afternoon. Let's hear from the manager, let's hear from Julen Lopetegui, what he had to say in the pre-match press conference.
Las claves en un partido de De este nivel son muchas, no hay una clave solamente. Seguramente va a ser la primera el fútbol, jugar bien, atacar bien y defender bien. Y por supuesto también el tema emocional siempre es importante y la mentalidad con la que se afronte este tipo de partidos. No, nosotros vamos a enfocar el partido pensando en nosotros, lógicamente sabiendo el rival que tenemos enfrente, pero pensando en optimizar nuestras virtudes y en potenciarlas al máximo. Es lo que vamos a tratar de hacer. Evidentemente ellos confían en mí y yo confío más todavía en ellos, no tengo ninguna duda, con lo cual en ese aspecto lo único que hace es refrendar que estamos trabajando bien, trabajando duro y que estamos lógicamente con ganas de dar una alegría a nuestra afición, y es un partido creo que propicio para ello. Sabemos de la dificultad, pero vamos con la máxima ambición, con la máxima ilusión y preparados para hacer un buen partido mañana. Sergio es nuestro capitán y ha ejercido como capitán fantásticamente, como lo hace siempre. No tenemos, al contrario, tenemos la suerte de tener un muy buen capitán, no tenemos ninguna duda, a todos los niveles. Hay buenos capitanes y grandes capitanes. Creo que Sergio es lo segundo.
Julian Lopetegui speaking at the end there about Sergio Ramos, the Real Madrid captain, who does like a dramatic goal. We know that. He also really likes scoring against Barcelona, and he likes scoring headed goals against Barcelona. He's got 4 headed goals against Barcelona, more than against any other team in La Liga. So he does enjoy causing problems for the Blaugrana. You remember, of course, a couple of years back, a dramatic injury time equaliser.
I was about to say 2016, the game that finished 1-1 here. Ramos scoring in injury time. Look, this is Ramos's 41st game against Barcelona. His first Clásico was back in the 2005-2006 season. And going back to what I was talking about before, those fine margins, is there where you need experience above all else, I think, in games like that. When you've lived through games like this, you're not fazed by it, and it allows you to focus on those little details, and that's what Sergio Ramos is able to do today. We know how he leads by example, we know how important he is in defence, we know how important he is as well in attack, as you just mentioned, with the goals that he likes to score. But Ramos is exactly the kind of player you want to have in your team in a game like this.
Yes, he does seem to relish the big moments, and it doesn't get any bigger than this, as we know. The Clásico against Barcelona, the game that the whole world watches. It is, of course, Spain's Clásico, but it's the world's Clásico as well. And as we know, there are millions of Madridistas all around the world, in every corner of the world, whose eyes will be glued on the Camp Nou this afternoon, looking and hoping for a Real Madrid victory. As we said, of course, it hasn't necessarily been the most positive start to the season in terms of the number of points that Real Madrid have picked up, but the positive thing is that a win today, you're 1 point behind Barcelona, right back into the title race. Of course, it is still early on in the season. It is too early to start making conclusions about how the team are playing, and as we said, a big result here and everything changes.
It's been a crazy La Liga season so far for everybody. Look at the La Liga table. I don't think anyone expects necessarily the table to stay like that. No one necessarily expects the teams that are right up there, the likes of Espanyol, the likes of Alaves, to necessarily be up there at the end of the season. And that means that it's all to play for everybody, including Real Madrid. The opportunity is very much still there for Real Madrid to go and have a super season in the league, challenge for the title. Who knows, maybe win the title, because you look, as you say, you look at the points at the top of the table. It's right there for the taking. Any team that from this stage goes on and puts a run together, starts to build win after win after win, can put in a title challenge, and that can start today.
We said that Real Madrid have a good result in this stadium. They are in fact the only side to have won at the Camp Nou since Ernesto Valverde became manager of Barcelona last summer. Of course, that 3-1 victory in the Spanish Super Cup here right at the start of the previous season. We know that this is a tough place to come, irrespective of the excellent results that Real Madrid have had in this stadium over the last few years. It is always difficult coming to a place like this in a game like this. Barcelona, they do tend to score in this stadium. Getafe were the last team to keep a clean sheet in La Liga at the Camp Nou. That was back in February, so Barcelona do tend to find the back of the net. However, this season Barcelona have conceded 7 goals at home. Just to give you an idea, put that into context, 14 teams in La Liga have conceded fewer goals than Barcelona in this stadium. So while while usually they do manage to find the back of the net, they have been defensively vulnerable in this stadium this season, and hopefully that's something that Real Madrid can take advantage of.
They've certainly been defensively suspect. It's not something you necessarily expect to see from an Ernesto Valverde team. I expected the number of shots they gave up to Sevilla last week. That's a good example of that. You look at the Barcelona defence, of course, they are very, very good players. You've got some players who've come into the side, who've joined the likes of Lenglet, who's maybe still bedding in, but there's certainly the suspicion that this Barcelona team can be got at if you go for them, if you're brave enough to go for them. Of course, a lot of teams aren't necessarily bold enough to do that, but we've seen one or two teams do that already this season, and they've managed to get some joy. And if Real Madrid, I think, take that attitude into this game and really have a go at this Barcelona defence, there are certainly some vulnerabilities there. The next step after that, after you've got in behind the defence, of course, is to beat Ter Stegen, who's a very, very good goalkeeper in excellent form.
As we said, the manager, Julen Lopetegui, spoke about small details deciding the Clásico. He also wants his side to have confidence in their own ability, and that is also key, isn't it? Not to feel overawed, not to feel overwhelmed, not to feel in any way inferior to Barcelona this afternoon. They have to believe in what they can do, and if they do that, they've got every chance.
Well, I think that's where Real Madrid's recent record at this stadium comes in, because otherwise you can say, look, it's a one-off game. What's happened in the past doesn't necessarily matter. Form doesn't necessarily matter. In this game, anything can happen. But when you're talking about so many of these Real Madrid players who have come here and won here in recent years, I think that's where that confidence comes in. That's where they're feeling that we are at least equal or superior comes in. I think you get that kind of attitude from a player like Thibaut Courtois. You get that kind of attitude from someone like Ramos at the back. You get it from Marcelo. You get it from Toni Kroos and Isco right the way through this team. I think that's the attitude that you get from this Real Madrid team. It's not about arrogance. It's about confidence in your own ability, knowing what you can do, because you've done it before and there's no reason you can't do it again. Absolutely.
If you're just joining us, wherever you're joining us from, you're very welcome. This is Real Madrid TV. We're broadcasting live on YouTube, on realmadrid.com, on Facebook as well. From the Camp Nou, as the side are out on the pitch, preparing for this afternoon's game. Just a quick word about the conditions. It was raining extremely heavily in Barcelona a little bit earlier on today. It has dried up for the moment, and you can maybe make out that the pitch is a little bit bobbly. As we said, a lot of rain has fallen in this part of Spain over the last few hours, but at the moment it's dry, and the prediction and the forecast is that it is going to stay dry for the game. Well, remains to be seen how that pans out, but just to give you an idea of the conditions at the Camp Nou, it's not particularly sunny, it's not particularly warm either, but I'm sure the players will be able to deal with that. Of course, Real Madrid this season, in terms of possession, they've been enjoying a lot of possession in matches. 64% possession they're averaging in La Liga this season, and actually they're averaging 18.2 shots per game, which is the highest in La Liga. So they've got a lot of possession, they've been having lots of shots as well. It's just that little bit of luck, that little bit of clinical edge perhaps in the final third that has been lacking. They've also got the best passing accuracy in La Liga of any team. 89.9% of passes find their intended target. So the statistics are backing up what Real Madrid are doing. It's just as we said, perhaps that little bit of luck, that little bit of calmness or clinical edge in the final third for Real Madrid.
I think those statistics reflect what we expected to see from Lopetegui's Real Madrid this season, which is a Real Madrid which looks to dominate the ball even more, which looks to dominate through possession, and that's how they want to play, and that's what we've seen. I think it's a really interesting stat, the one you just mentioned, the number of shots on goal that Real Madrid are generating per game. That shows that in terms of the build-up play, that element has been going the way that Real Madrid wanted to. They've been getting into good positions, they've been creating goal-scoring opportunities. As we've been saying in this programme, the next step is then to take them, and that's where that clinical finishing, especially in a game of this magnitude, especially against a team as good as Barcelona, comes in. Because if you take your chances in a game like this, you give yourself a chance to win the game. If you aren't able to take your chances, of course, that makes things so much more difficult.
Just to remind you of the starting 11 for Real Madrid's game today in the Camp Nou. It's Thibaut Courtois in goal, and a back four of Nacho, Ramos, Varane and Marcelo, Casemiro, Modric, Kroos and Isco, with Gareth Bale and Karim Benzema up front. Perhaps the only real doubt, we didn't know who was going to play at right back. Nacho has been chosen to play at right back with Dani Carvajal out injured, and we know just how solid Nacho is at right back. But he's not just necessarily solid, he is a very good defender, Nacho. Nacho wherever he plays across the back four. Remember, he played for Spain at the World Cup as a right back, scored a lovely goal as well at the World Cup as right back. So we shouldn't be feeling in any way concerned about Nacho at right back, because whenever he comes in and whenever he plays on either side of the defence, whether it's left back or right back, he does a good job.
Look, I think Dani Carvajal, we all know, is the best attacking right back in the world. There's no question about that. But Nacho is such a good alternative there. I also think when you've got Marcelo on the other side, we know how much Marcelo loves to get forward, how much he enjoys attacking, and how much he brings to the team in an attacking sense. If you've got Marcelo on that left-hand side, it can balance things out a little bit, especially against a top team like Barcelona, to have someone like Nacho on the right-hand side, who, yes, he can get forward, he does really well getting forward, but maybe he's not quite as attack-minded as Dani Carvajal. In these big games like this one, like El Clásico, I think that balance of Marcelo and Nacho as the two fullbacks is a good one.
Certainly is. Looking forward to seeing how they get on in the full-back positions, both Nacho and Marcelo. Up front, of course, it's going to be Gareth Bale and Karim Benzema, who are nominally charged with getting the goals for Real Madrid. Karim Benzema has scored 9 goals in Clásicos in all competitions over the year. 3 of those have come in this stadium, and some of them have been very impressive as well. Gareth Bale has scored 2 Clásico goals, and they have been 2 absolutely brilliant strikes. You might remember last season, of course, he scored here in a 2-2 draw, a magnificent goal from the edge of the area, beautiful first-time strike that just curled into the top corner. And who can forget his first goal in a Clásico in the 2014 Copa del Rey final, as Real Madrid beat Barcelona to lift the trophy. So Bale and Benzema will be looking to add to their respective Clásico goals tally.
And this Gareth Bale's 201st game, of course, for Real Madrid. Look at the stats for Gareth Bale over the course of his Real Madrid career. Sensational, 92 goals, 62 assists Gareth Bale has scored in his time as a Real Madrid player. And as you say, his record against Barcelona is very good. You talk about Benzema's 9 goals in Clásicos, by the way. 7 assists as well for Karim Benzema in Clásicos. And as we know, Karim Benzema is a super goal scorer, but he's much more than a goal scorer. He's also more than willing to lay on a pass, to create a goal for a teammate if that's the best option in the moment. That's why everyone loves playing with Karim Benzema. That's why Benzema and Bale are such a good duo.
Players making their way off the pitch. Of course, the final preparations are done now. Not long to go now before kickoff in the Clásico, the 239th Clásico between Real Madrid and Barcelona. We know it's going to be quite an atmosphere inside this stadium. It's going to be particularly raucous and hostile against Real Madrid. We know that. There'll be whistles every time they're in possession, but the players will know how to deal with that. As we said, it is a hostile environment, but they are experienced in these kinds of games, as we see the players making their way inside the dressing room for a final little chat and final preparations ahead of the game with Barcelona today. Of course, how do we expect Real Madrid to come out to start this game? Are we expecting them to try and take the game to Barcelona, get an early goal, or just keep things tight and then perhaps pick them off on the break?
I think they'll look to take the game to Barcelona. I think it's part of that confident, positive attitude that we've been talking about. I think they want to take the game to the home side, look to impose themselves, look to get hold of the ball, look to start to dominate possession, build from there, and look to get that first goal and really put Barcelona on the back foot. We know all about the expectation from the home crowds here. If Real Madrid can go in front in this game, just put that bit of extra pressure on Barcelona, then Barca will start to feel the nervous atmosphere from the home fans, and that could be significant.
Okay, so it is the big game of the weekend, but of course there are other matches in La Liga that are taking place, that have taken place. So let's get you up to date with all the other results in La Liga from match day 10, because as we know, these games, they affect the title race, they affect Real Madrid and Barcelona. So Real Valladolid and Espanyol drawing on Friday evening. Girona beating Rayo Vallecano by 2-1. Athletic and Valencia playing out a goalless draw at San Mamés. Celta Vigo with a convincing 4-0 victory over Eibar on Saturday evening. Levante beating Leganés by 2-0, and Atletico Madrid beating Real Sociedad. The early kickoff on Sunday saw Getafe beat Real Betis by 2-0. Then it's the big one. It is Barcelona against Real Madrid. Madrid, just over 12 minutes to go before kick-off. Then Alaves against Villarreal. Alaves going well up at the top of the table, as are Sevilla, who host Huesca in the final game on Sunday evening. So those are the results and the fixtures still to come on match day 10 of La Liga. Of course, for us, the big one is at the Camp Nou, and we are just moments away from kickoff here ahead of Barcelona against Real Madrid. Before we go, of course, a score prediction. What do we think is going to happen? Is it going to be an open game? Remember, we haven't had a goalless Clásico in La Liga since 2002. This is normally a game, as we said at the start of the programme, that delivers goals, excitement, entertainment. What are we thinking?
I think that run will continue. I do think there will be goals, but I do think it will be incredibly tight. I think Real Madrid to get the win, but just by the one goal. I'm going for a 2-1 Real Madrid victory.
Okay, there we go. 2-1 Real Madrid victory. That's the prediction. Let's see how it goes. Enjoy the match. Whatever happens, a la Madrid.